Let's begin with a fundamental truth. The brain, the organ that generates your thoughts, your emotions, your focus, your sense of self, is not separate from the rest of your body. It is of the body. And the food you eat is the raw material your brain uses to function. So when we talk about fixing your brain, we must start with what you're feeding it. Now, let's talk neuroscience. The brain operates through electrochemical signaling. Neurons firing, neurotransmitters transmitting, synapses adapting. Every one of those processes depends on nutrients. Not abstract nutrients, specific molecules. Glucose, amino acids, fatty acids, vitamins, and minerals. You eat food. That food gets broken down. Then it's either used to build the brain, fuel the brain, or damage the brain. Let's start with a key concept. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change, rewire, and adapt. This is the foundation of learning, memory, emotional regulation, and recovery from stress. And the truth is, you cannot sustain neuroplasticity without adequate nutrition. So what should you be eating to optimize your brain? Omega-3 fatty acids are among the most critical nutrients for brain health, particularly a subtype known as DHA, docosahexaenoic acid. The brain is composed of nearly 60% fat by dry weight, and DHA makes up a significant portion of the structural fat in neuronal membranes. These membranes are not passive structures. They're dynamic interfaces through which neurons communicate. When DHA levels are adequate, membrane fluidity is optimized, which enhances the efficiency of neurotransmitter signaling, synaptic transmission, and receptor function. In other words, the very architecture that allows your thoughts, emotions, and memories to form is shaped by this fat. A deficiency in DHA can lead to alterations in membrane properties, impairing signal transduction and contributing to cognitive decline, mood instability, and even increased risk of neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's. Cold water fatty fish such as sardines, salmon, mackerel, and anchovies are the most bioavailable sources of DHA. And EPA, another omega-3 known as eicosapentaenoic acid. These fatty acids are not just beneficial. They're essential, meaning your body cannot synthesize them in sufficient amounts. You must obtain them through your diet. While ELA, alpha-linolenic acid, found in plant sources like flaxseed and walnuts, can technically be converted into DHA and EPA. The conversion rate is extremely low, typically less than 10%. So if you're relying solely on plant-based omega-3s, you're likely not giving your brain what it truly needs. The benefits of omega-3s extend beyond structural support. They play a powerful anti-inflammatory role within the brain. Chronic low-grade inflammation is a silent driver of cognitive dysfunction, depression, and neurodegeneration. Omega-3s modulate immune signaling, reducing the production of pro-inflammatory cytokines and promoting the resolution of inflammation. This is particularly important in the context of modern lifestyles, which often involve stress, poor sleep, processed food, and environmental toxins, all of which can induce inflammatory responses in the brain. Another important role of DHA is its influence on neurogenesis, the birth of new neurons, particularly in the hippocampus, a region involved in memory and emotional regulation. DHA has been shown to upregulate brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. BDNF is essentially a fertilizer for your neurons. It supports the survival of existing neurons while encouraging the growth of new connections. Higher levels of BDNF are correlated with improved learning capacity, faster recovery from mental fatigue, and protection against age-related cognitive decline. Studies on children, adults, and the elderly consistently show that higher omega-3 intake is associated with better cognitive performance, reduced symptoms of anxiety and depression, and lower risk of neurodegenerative disorders. Supplementation with fish oil has been shown to improve reaction time, working memory, and even structural changes in the brain over time. These aren't just correlations, they're observable shifts in the physiology and function of the human brain. It's also worth noting that the effects of omega-3s are dose-dependent. Minimal intake produces minimal results. Clinical and cognitive benefits typically appear when EPA are consumed at meaningful levels, often between 1 to 3 grams per day, depending on the individual's needs, baseline inflammation, and dietary background. The brain is an energy-demanding organ. Despite making up only about 2% of your body weight, it consumes approximately 20% of your daily energy, and its primary source of fuel is glucose. But not all glucose is created equal. The type, timing, and stability of glucose delivery to the brain significantly affect how well it functions. This is where the distinction between high glycemic and low glycemic carbohydrates becomes critical. High glycemic foods, such as white bread, sugary snacks, soda, and pastries, cause rapid spikes in blood glucose, followed by sharp crashes. These fluctuations can lead to brain fog, irritability, difficulty concentrating, and even long-term impairments in cognitive flexibility and memory consolidation. Low glycemic complex carbohydrates, on the other hand, provide a slow and steady release of glucose into the bloodstream. This results in a more stable energy supply to the brain, supporting optimal function throughout the day. Foods like oats, sweet potatoes, quinoa, lentils, legumes, berries, and vegetables rich in fiber fall into this category. They don't overwhelm the system. They nourish it in a way that promotes sustained attention, emotional regulation, and enhanced learning capacity. The key mechanism here is the modulation of insulin. High glycemic foods trigger large insulin responses that not only affect energy levels, but also impact neurotransmitter balance, particularly serotonin and dopamine, which are deeply involved in mood, motivation, and focus. It's also important to understand that unstable glucose levels do more than just impair short-term performance. They also impact long-term brain health. Chronic hyperglycemia or repeated exposure to elevated blood sugar increases oxidative stress and inflammation in the brain. This sets the stage for the development of insulin resistance within the brain itself, a condition now strongly linked to Alzheimer's disease, often referred to as a type 3 diabetes. What that tells us is simple. Consistently poor dietary choices, particularly those involving refined carbohydrates, don't just make you tired or unfocused in the moment. They accelerate neurodegeneration over time. Complex carbohydrates also support the gut microbiome, a community of trillions of bacteria that play a significant role in brain function through what's known as the gut-brain axis. Many low glycemic foods contain prebiotic fibers, which nourish beneficial gut bacteria. These microbes, in turn, produce neuroactive compounds like short-chain fatty acids and certain neurotransmitters, directly influencing mood and cognitive function. A healthy gut microbiome supports reduced anxiety, improved sleep quality, and even greater emotional resilience. So when you're choosing foods that stabilize glucose, you're not just stabilizing energy, you're supporting a feedback loop that extends from digestion to neural chemistry. Additionally, the inclusion of complex carbohydrates helps maintain the availability of critical cofactors required for neurotransmitter synthesis. For example, the metabolism of tryptophan to serotonin and tyrosine to dopamine is highly dependent on stable insulin signaling and adequate glucose availability. When the brain is deprived of consistent energy, these pathways can become impaired, leading to symptoms that mirror anxiety, low motivation, or depressive states. Even meal timing plays a role. Consuming high glycemic foods late at night can disrupt sleep by causing blood sugar swings that interfere with melatonin production and overall circadian rhythm alignment. A misaligned circadian rhythm negatively impacts everything from memory consolidation during sleep to next day cognitive performance. Proteins are made up of amino acids, and amino acids are the building blocks not only of muscles and tissues, but also of neurotransmitters, chemical messengers that govern nearly every aspect of brain function. Dopamine, serotonin, GABA, norepinephrine, each of these critically important neurotransmitters begins with a specific amino acid precursor. Tyrosine is the precursor to dopamine and norepinephrine. Tryptophan is the precursor to serotonin. Glutamine converts to glutamate and then to GABA, the primary inhibitory neurotransmitter in the brain. These aren't abstract concepts. These are biochemical pathways that directly shape your mood, motivation, stress response, and sleep cycles. When your diet lacks sufficient high-quality protein, you're not just risking muscle loss. You're compromising your brain's ability to communicate with itself effectively. Tyrosine, for instance, is an amino acid found in high-protein foods such as eggs, chicken, turkey, dairy, soy, and legumes. It's essential for the synthesis of dopamine, which plays a central role in reward, motivation, and goal-directed behavior. When dopamine levels are optimized, you feel driven and focused. When they're low, you feel sluggish, distracted, and unmotivated. This is not simply a matter of mental attitude. It's a neurochemical reality. In high-demand cognitive tasks or during periods of chronic stress, dopamine synthesis can become depleted. If your diet lacks the raw materials like tyrosine to replenish that system, performance and mood can suffer. Tryptophan, another amino acid, is the sole precursor for serotonin, a neurotransmitter involved in mood stability, emotional regulation, and sleep quality. Foods rich in tryptophan, such as eggs, salmon, nuts, and seeds, can support serotonin production, particularly when consumed alongside carbohydrates, which help shuttle tryptophan across the blood-brain barrier. Without enough tryptophan, serotonin synthesis slows down, which may contribute to symptoms of depression, irritability, and sleep disturbances. Then there's glutamine, an amino acid that converts into glutamate, the brain's main excitatory neurotransmitter. Glutamate is crucial for synaptic plasticity and learning, but in excess, it can lead to neurotoxicity. This is where GABA comes in, the brain's primary inhibitory neurotransmitter, also derived from glutamine. GABA acts like a brake pedal, calming neuronal activity and helping prevent overstimulation. It's heavily involved in stress regulation, anxiety reduction, and promoting restful sleep. Adequate protein intake supports this delicate balance between excitatory and inhibitory signals in the brain. Protein isn't just about quantity, but also quality. Animal-based proteins tend to be complete, containing all 9 essential amino acids in proportions ideal for human needs. However, well-planned plant-based diets can also provide sufficient amino acids when variety and quantity are accounted for. The key is ensuring that your intake consistently meets the brain's ongoing demand for neurotransmitter precursors. Beyond neurotransmitter synthesis, amino acids are also vital for the formation of enzymes, hormones, and signaling molecules that modulate neuroinflammation, repair oxidative stress, and support the blood-brain barrier. These compounds are naturally found in a wide range of plant-based foods and act as molecular defense agents. In the concept of the brain, they serve a vital role in neutralizing free radicals, unstable molecules generated during metabolism and heightened under conditions of stress, inflammation, pollution, or poor diet. Left unchecked, these free radicals can damage neurons through a process known as oxidative stress, which is a major contributor to cognitive aging, neuroinflammation, and the pathogenesis of neurodegenerative disorders such as Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. Polyphenols are a diverse group of plant chemicals, including flavonoids, phenolic acids, stilbenes, and lignans. Each type has unique properties, but many share the ability to cross the blood-brain barrier and exert direct effects on brain cells. For instance, flavonoids found in blueberries, dark chocolate, green tea, and citrus fruits have been shown to increase cerebral blood flow, enhance synaptic plasticity, and upregulate the expression of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF. BDNF is a key molecule involved in the survival of existing neurons and the growth of new ones, particularly in the hippocampus, which is responsible for learning and memory. Antioxidants like vitamin C, vitamin E, selenium, and compounds such as glutathione also help buffer the brain against oxidative insults. Vitamin C, found abundantly in citrus fruits, bell peppers, and berries, not only neutralizes free radicals, but also helps regenerate other antioxidants like vitamin E. It plays a direct role in the production of neurotransmitters such as dopamine and norepinephrine. Vitamin E, a fat-soluble antioxidant found in nuts, seeds, and green leafy vegetables, protects neuronal membranes from lipid peroxidation, a form of oxidative damage that is especially harmful in the brain due to its high fat content. Green tea contains a unique polyphenol called AGCG epigallocatechin gallate, which has been shown to reduce inflammation, support mitochondrial function, and improve working memory and attention. It also modulates GABA, and dopamine signaling, contributing to a calm but alert mental state. Turmeric, another potent antioxidant source, contains curcumin, a compound with strong anti-inflammatory and neuroprotective effects. Curcumin has been shown to reduce levels of pro-inflammatory cytokines in the brain and may enhance neurogenesis when taken consistently over time, especially when paired with black pepper, which enhances its bioavailability. Dark chocolate and cocoa provide flavonols that have been linked to improve blood flow to the brain and better performance on cognitive tasks, particularly under conditions of sleep deprivation or mental fatigue. These effects are thought to be due to increased nitric oxide production, which relaxes blood vessels and improves nutrient delivery to brain tissue. The cumulative effect of consuming polyphenol-rich foods on a regular basis is not just a temporary boost in alertness or memory. It builds a protective environment within the brain, reducing long-term inflammation and oxidative load. This contributes to greater resilience against stress, sharper mental clarity, and a slower trajectory of cognitive decline with age. These compounds don't act in isolation, but rather synergistically with other nutrients, forming a complex network of protection and repair. The gut-brain axis is a bidirectional communication network that connects the central nervous system and the gastrointestinal tract, involving neural, hormonal, and immunological pathways. One of the most influential components of this axis is the gut microbiome, a vast ecosystem of trillions of microorganisms, including bacteria, viruses, fungi, and other microbes residing in the digestive tract. These microbes aren't just passive inhabitants, they actively influence brain chemistry, emotional regulation, immune function, and even behavior. The foods we eat shape the diversity and composition of this microbiome, which in turn modulates how our brain performs under stress, how resilient we are emotionally, and how efficiently we can learn and retain information. Certain bacterial strains produce neurotransmitters directly. For example, some strains of Lactobacillus and Bifidobacterium can synthesize GABA, the primary inhibitory neurotransmitter that calms the nervous system and help regulate anxiety. Others contribute to the production of serotonin, around 90% of which is actually made in the gut, highlighting the critical role of digestive health in mood regulation. These microbial processes depend on the availability of fermentable fibers, prebiotics, found in foods like onions, garlic, leeks, bananas, oats, and asparagus. Prebiotics feed beneficial bacteria, promoting a more robust microbial profile that supports optimal brain function. Fermented foods such as yogurt, kefir, kimchi, sauerkraut, miso, and kombucha introduce live beneficial bacteria. Probiotics into the gut. These microbes can transiently enhance the microbial landscape, improving gut barrier integrity, reducing systemic inflammation, and positively influencing the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal, HPA, axis which regulates the body's response to stress. A well-functioning gut barrier prevents endotoxins like lipopolysaccharide, LPS, from leaking into the bloodstream. When the barrier is compromised, often due to poor diet, chronic stress, or antibiotic overuse, LPS can enter circulation and trigger neuroinflammatory responses that impair cognition and elevate the risk of mood disorder. Short-chain fatty acids, SCFA, such as butyrate, acetate, and propionate, are byproducts of microbial fermentation of fiber. SCFA are not just fuel for colon cells. They have systemic effects, including anti-inflammatory action, regulation of blood-brain barrier integrity, and influence on gene expression in brain tissue. Butyrate in particular has been shown to enhance memory formation and protect against neurodegeneration by increasing levels of BDNF and modulating the expression of genes is related to neuroplasticity. Stress, poor sleep, ultra-processed foods, and excessive sugar intake can all alter the gut microbiome in unfavorable ways, leading to reduced microbial diversity and an increase in pro-inflammatory bacteria. This microbial imbalance or dysbiosis has been associated with increased anxiety, depression, impaired cognition, and even changes in social behavior. The communication from gut to brain is partially carried out via the vagus nerve, and disturbances in microbial health can disrupt vagal tone, weakening this crucial channel of brain-gut signals. Emerging research also suggests that the gut microbiome influences the brain's circadian rhythms, helping to regulate sleep-wake cycles, hormone production, and metabolic rhythms that affect mental clarity and energy levels throughout the day. The timing of meals, diversity of fiber sources, and inclusion of fermented foods all play a role in shaping these rhythms.